Welcome to today's episode. If you're watching for the first time and want to know more about MW Partners, then have a quick look at our first show. Today I'm going to talk about what I believe is the best tax deduction that dentists have ever received. And of course I'm talking about the $20,000 asset write-off. Most of you will have been aware of it because it's been around for the last year and a half, but it is going to expire at the 30th of June 2018. Now the first thing to note is the equipment that you buy can be new or used. So if you do buy something used, it's equally available to be written off. The next most important point is that you cannot finance this equipment by way of a lease. Most people don't realise that. It must be a loan if you are going to finance it. The reason why it can't be a lease is that under a lease, technically you don't own it, the finance company does. So they're the ones that would get the $20,000 write-off. So make sure you do take the finance out by way of a loan. The other trick is, and a lot of you will have been approached by some of the equipment companies who say that they can break up the invoice on the chair that you might want to buy and break it into bits that are under $20,000. Unfortunately, that does not work. The piece of equipment that you purchase must not only be under $20,000, but it must be functional as a piece of equipment. If you were to add optional extras to it, then certainly you'd be able to claim the first $20,000 because the item's functional, and each option that you add to that item. You also can't take one piece of equipment and just break it into $10,000 installments and get 5 different invoices for it. That also won't work. It's going back to that item of equipment and the fact that it must be under $20,000. The other thing that you may not be aware of is that if you are a small business, which is one with a gross turnover of under $2 million, and currently that threshold has been increased to under $10 million, so that's going to mean most dental surgeries out there, you're able to lump all of your assets together in what's known as pooling. Okay? All those assets get pooled and you're able to depreciate them at a much higher rate. Now your accountant, and certainly MW Partners, is ensuring that all of our clients pool their assets to get a better tax deduction. One of the things to look for is if your plant and equipment is older and the total value of your pool at the start of the year is under $20,000, guess what? You could write off the whole pool. So you're able to claim all of your old equipment if the total pool value is under $20,000. Another thing is, a motor vehicle is also available under this scheme. If you're able to buy one under $20,000 and that suits your purpose, you will be able to write off that motor vehicle. But you need to be careful because you will need a motor vehicle logbook to ensure what the business percentage use is. If you've only got 60% business use of that motor vehicle, you're only able to write off 60% of that $20,000, which would be a $12,000 write-off. So just be careful, you can't claim the whole $20,000. Also, if you thought outside the square and go, hey, what if I bought a $30,000 motor vehicle, given I'm only going to claim 60% of it, it comes under 20 grand. Can I do that? No way, right? The asset itself must be under $20,000. Lastly, you must make sure that you buy them within that time period, which is after the 12th of May 2015, and they must be installed and ready for use on or before the 30th of June 2018. So those people who may be in the process of refurbishing their surgery and are looking to put some new equipment in, you must have that equipment in before the 30th of June 2018. You cannot just order it. It must be there on site, ready to use. You also need to be careful with your fit out. If you are doing walls and floors and a whole lot of other things, there are some items that will not comply with the regulations. It must be an asset that would normally be depreciable and not a property improvement or fixed asset as such. Any other questions, please contact me via a quickie. Thank you.
I have a dentist that bought their $40,000 chair under lease 3 years ago. They're about to pay out the residual of $15,000. Are there any claims we can make?
That's got all the combinations in it that make it a very difficult question. Firstly, the equipment's over $20,000. It was a $40,000 chair. Secondly, it was actually bought 3 years ago, which was before the changes to the legislation. And thirdly, it's under a lease, which is something that, as I said before, you can't make a claim for those assets. However, because it's now current time and we're within the legislation and we're going to pay out that lease, when we pay out that lease, we're technically buying the asset. And because we're going to pay out a figure of under $20,000, I think you said $15,000 for the balance of that asset, it means that yes, we can now claim $15,000 as a tax deduction this year.
Albert, is there any possibility of being able to claim a leased asset?
Look, as I said before, if you finance a new asset purchased by way of a lease, because you don't own the equipment, you can't claim the $20,000 write-off. But if you're already in a situation where you've purchased an asset and it's under a lease, if you decide to pay out the lease early, technically you are buying that asset back off the finance company. If you purchase that asset, even if it's second-hand, which it's going to be, you will be able to claim that asset provided its value, the payout figure on that lease, is under $20,000.
Something that came up recently is that one of our clients has just spent $10,000 nearly on their website development. Can that be claimed?
Alison, that's something the dentists are spending a lot of money on now to attract those new patients. Really important to have a good website. Under the $20,000 asset write-off, unfortunately, website development is not a physical asset that's subject to the normal depreciation rules. And so therefore, under those provisions, it cannot be claimed.
Albert, I know a dentist who is fitting out a brand new dental surgery. How will they know which items fall under the $20,000 category?
Well, actually, they won't know what falls under that category. Whenever they do a major fit out, usually the builder's just giving them a bulk invoice that actually doesn't break down what's wall, ceiling, air conditioning, and a detailed breakdown of the expenses. What we recommend is that you get a quantity surveyor that has experience in the dental or medical field with those type of fit outs, and they can provide a tax office approved breakdown of that refurbishment. More importantly, one of the companies that we use called Capital Claims will actually come in earlier and determine what of the refit can be written off before the new fitting goes in there. Perfect. Thank you for watching this episode, and we hope that you found it helpful. For our next episode, we're going to talk on something that is going to affect a number of you, particularly if you're thinking of negative gearing and property investment. And that is some of the Victorian state budget announcements, which are now in effect, and they're going to affect people that are buying properties off the plan and also a number of other tax strategies that are now almost gone because we're not able to use them anymore. Stamp duty, first home buyers grants, and a number of other issues. Make sure that you're watching that, particularly if you're thinking of investing.